Title: The Guiding Light. Yuval Noah Harari's Wisdom on Leadership. Chapter 1: The Dawn of Insight. When Yuval Noah Harari first stepped onto the academic stage, many expected a cautious historian. Instead, he delivered a bold manifesto about the future of humanity, and with it, a set of principles that illuminate what it means to lead wisely. Harari's central belief is that true leadership begins not with authority, but with a profound empathy for the human story. He once remarked, "The most impressive leaders are those who understand that the world does not belong to them. It belongs to the collective imagination." In the same breath, Harari reminds us that wisdom is not the accumulation of facts, but the capacity to weave those facts into a narrative that guides action. Think of his lecture on the Sapiens narrative, where he described human cooperation as a story that allowed millions to bind their fates together. Leaders who can craft shared stories that bind people with purpose, will always pull ahead of those who merely dictate. A vivid illustration is his discussion of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. While many leaders flounder over strategic options, Harari points at the necessity of reframing the narrative. From who is right and who is wrong to who can together write a story that ends violence. In that reframing lies wisdom, to look not at immediate advantage, but at the larger shared hope that binds communities. What does this teach us as aspiring leaders? First, that empathy is the foundation for influence. Second, that stories are instruments for change. Third, that wisdom means looking beyond self-interest to the broader human tapestry. Harari's experience as a professor in Jerusalem, a city pulsing with history and conflict, turned these ideas into living lessons that many leaders now adapt in boardrooms and civic chambers. Concrete application for today: take the next meeting in your organization. Before assigning tasks, ask, what story does this project fit into our larger mission? Invite team members to contribute. Listen deeply. Align project goals with that story. You will witness cooperation grow, not because you demanded it, but because you offered a narrative that honored everyone's role. Key takeaway: leadership rooted in empathy and narrative is wiser than rule-based or purely rational command. Call to action. If you found this insight powerful, please like, share, and subscribe to keep exploring leadership wisdom. Reflective question: how can you begin today to reframe the current narrative within your sphere of influence? Chapter 2: The Compass of Wisdom. Harari's second core principle revolves around the discipline of perspective, seeing the present and anticipating the future through multiple lenses. In his book 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, he encourages leaders to practice the art of paradox. He warns, the greatest mistake is to assume the same solutions can be used in different eras. His call is clear: leaders must constantly adjust their compass to navigate changing environments. A striking example comes from his commentary on AI. Harari does not fear AI. He urges leaders to ask, what stories will humans write with AI? He warns against overconfidence in technological determinism and stresses humility. Leaders who acknowledge uncertainty and are ready to pivot learn to survive disruptive crises while keeping their moral direction. His third principle is humility before the unknown. Harari himself once said, "The future is shaped by the present, but the present is a small window into an infinite space." This humility informs his advocacy for learning from the ancient past. Instead of blindly creating new doctrines, he advises leaders to study how societies survived pandemics, wars, and revolutions, extracting timeless lessons. Together, these three interlock: perspective, paradox, and humility. By viewing the world through diverse lenses, questioning inherited assumptions, and acknowledging limits, leaders foster an environment that nurtures creativity and resilience. Concrete application for today: start a weekly perspective check with your team. Each week, choose a global event, then explore how it might apply to your industry, culture, and values. Encourage dissent and curiosity. Over time, this practice will sharpen collective decision-making and keep your organization adaptable. Key takeaway: wisdom is not static. It is a continuous process of questioning, learning, and adjusting. Call to action. If you want more stories that challenge your thinking, click like, share this with curious peers, and subscribe for fresh insights. Reflective question: what single assumption about your industry do you need to challenge this week? Chapter 3, Crafting Wisdom in Action. Harari's life is itself a living testament to applying his wisdom principles. He spent decades as a professor at the Hebrew University, a place where the past and present collide. In the corridors of academia, he built a community that valued open debate, fostering a sense of collective intelligence. He practiced the philosophy of learning from others by interviewing political leaders, scientists, and artists, gathering perspectives as a leader gathers data. His entrepreneurial engagement illustrates another dimension of his wisdom. Harari co-founds the startup Rewire, which uses neural network analysis to help executives optimize communication styles. Rather than prescribe hard rules, he provides each leader with a personalized narrative map, mirroring his own belief in narrative-driven leadership. Moreover, he has not shied away from confronting uncomfortable truths. During the 2015 United Nations Climate Summit, Harari openly urged governments to stop ignoring the data. He combined the scientific rigor of climate science with the persuasive power of storytelling. If we don't change, our grandchildren will inherit a planet that cannot sustain them. That speech exemplified leadership that merges knowledge with the moral clarity of the stakes at hand. These examples reinforce that wisdom requires action oriented towards collective benefit. Harari transforms scholarly insights into practical tools, demonstrating that intellectual mastery must be coupled with tangible initiatives. Concrete application for today. Identify a personal strength or skill that can help a colleague or teammate. Offer to mentor or collaborate on a project where you can both apply that skill and create a shared story of success. In return, you'll practice humility, empathy, and collective crafting, the hallmarks of Harari's approach. Key takeaway: wisdom turns knowledge into purposeful action, guided by a clear mission and served by humility. Call to action: engage with this content, clap the like button, let others know this message, and hit subscribe for more stories of wisdom in motion. Reflective question: who in your daily life could benefit from a narrative you help craft? Chapter 4, Wisdom for the Modern Marketplace. The corporate world is rife with rapid change, yet many leaders still rely on the same old hierarchies. Harari's insights present a way forward. Build organizations that are as fluid as the stories they aim to generate. 3 actionable principles emerge. 1. Decentralize the narrative. Let teams create their own local stories that align with the corporate mission. Harari says, the most powerful ideas are those that people can internalize, not just those imposed from above. In practice, give your team autonomy to set micro goals that serve the larger goal. 2. Create a culture of learning. According to Harari, leaders need to cultivate a mindset of learning rather than mastery. Adopt a policy where setbacks are documented and shared openly, turning failure into shared wisdom. 3. Cultivate narrative empathy. When developing new products, ask, whose stories will this product touch? This places user narratives at the center, producing empathy-driven design and innovation. Real-world companies have already begun to experiment. Netflix, for instance, uses vast data to craft personalized story arcs for viewers. Their executives attribute success, in part, to listening to the narratives of millions rather than just making top-down decisions. Microsoft's shift under Satya Nadella resembles Harari's emphasis on a shared story, a culture of growth mindset rather than technical dominance. Concrete application for today: audit your current organizational charts. Identify a department that relies heavily on gatekeepers and redesign processes so that frontline employees can submit ideas that inform leadership stories. Offer a quarterly showcase called Story Pulse, where employees present the impact of their initiatives. This democratization will spur engagement and cultivate the shared narrative. Key takeaway: in a modern marketplace, leaders must shift from imposing stories to allowing them to emerge organically from the workforce. Call to action: to join a community that values narrative leadership, hit the like button, share your vision, and subscribe for deeper dives into business-oriented wisdom. Reflective question: which part of your organization's current story feels most rigid, and how could you loosen it? Chapter 5, Charting the Path Forward. We have retraced Yuval Noah Harari's key compass points: empathy-driven storytelling, disciplined perspective, humility, actionable learning, and narrative decentralization. The final lesson stitches them together into a living framework that any leader can adopt. Wisdom is a continuous conversation between past, present, and future, told and answered through shared stories. As you leave this script, remember Harari's assertion that the most successful societies are those that can change the story they live for. To implement this wisdom, create a daily ritual. Write or reflect on a single story that could guide your next decision, whether it's picking a client, navigating a policy change, or mentoring a junior team member. By consciously constructing these narratives, you train your leadership muscles, sharpening sensitivity and foresight. And finally, don't stop at theory, act every day. Build a story deck that captures your vision, your challenges, and the people's aspirations. Share it openly. This transparency invites feedback, invites participation, and reinforces the collective commitment to wisdom. Key takeaway: leadership wisdom is not a static doctrine, but an evolving shared narrative that thrives on empathy, humility, and action. Call to action. If you feel inspired to lead with deeper wisdom, please hit like, share with peers who also crave purposeful leadership, and subscribe for ongoing conversations about how stories shape the future. Reflective question: what story will you write today that will shape the next chapter of your life or organization? Thank you for joining this journey through Yuval Noah Harari's wisdom on leadership. Return whenever you need a fresh story to guide your next decision. Until then, lead with empathy, think with humility, and narrate boldly.